Hello and welcome to Kinbozan Radio. This is our hype show as we come to the close of what turned out to be an exciting for many and disappointing for some Mei Basho. Nick, how are you feeling so far?
This is honestly one of my favorite that I've watched in the last year and a half. It's been just fantastic. Everybody's doing so well.
Yeah, and doesn't Sumo just feels different with a Yokozuna, man? Like we've talked about how there's some excitement of anything could happen, but after seeing Teru come back here, I'm just like, I felt a little incomplete. This is what I'm supposed to have.
And it's really nice to see him performing healthy when he comes back and just crushes everybody. And like you said, you're like, oh yeah, this is what happens when they're there. Like, this is what the Yokozuna should be doing.
Yes, because even his last couple tournaments, when he had 11 wins and 12 wins or whatever, and like the first couple times people got Kinboshis against him, it was really exciting. And then it started to be like, oh, this is a little awkward.
Yeah, you're like, he's just hurt.
Yep.
Still doing well, but just hurt.
Right, exactly. And now, again, to that same point, like we'll talk about him later, but Meisei did score a Kinboshi against TerunoFinish, and it was really exciting. And other than that, TerunoFinish has shut everyone down. Today he beat Asanoyama, who we're also going to touch on later. But what do you think this means for the Yusho, Nick?
I think he's got it, for sure. Like, it'll be really interesting to see how tomorrow goes. But I think at this point, he's typically have lost like 3-4 matches. Like I think his last few that he participated in were like 11-4, I want to say, around there. So seeing him 12-1, like I think he's got it locked.
I think so too, especially because, like you mentioned, you hinted at tomorrow. Tomorrow, TerunoFinish fights Kiribayama, who, has 11 wins right now, 11-2 to Teru's 12-1, so he's the only guy who can catch him. But just a quick glance here, I haven't done a full deep dive, but Teru has beaten Kiribayama 9 times in a row, as far as I can see. So, yeah.
And Kiribayama's been doing just phenomenal the last couple of Basho, but again, TerunoFinish healthy is almost impossible to beat.
I think so too.
With the crowd they've got now, like there's nobody that can really stand up to him.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I think tomorrow's going to be a really exciting match because it means so much, and these two guys are good and in good form, clearly. Real quick, there was a scare on, I believe it was day 12, where Teru jumped off the dohyo. He did not fall, which is good, didn't land on any shoulders or anything, but he had a really hard time getting back up into the dohyo. And when he did his, to accept his prize and squat down, he went maybe 1/3 of the way down. Do you think, one, I guess this is a two-part question, does he have enough to finish this off? If he beats Kiribayama, he's got it. So he needs to do that. But then, is this it? Is this the ride-off into the sunset Basho if he wins it?
It's hard to know for sure. I think he healed long enough that he's likely mostly fine. Mm-hmm. But I mean, even if he's like 90% the way there, like this is a tough sport where something like that happens. Like it's probably scary for him too. Even if it was just like, my knee's just sore for a day. It could have been something weird, but it's like you've had so much damage to them in the past.
Yeah.
I think they'll have 2 Ozeki for next one, just to do a quick spoiler for what's coming up.
Yeah.
But I don't think he rides off. I've been seeing a lot of people saying like, I hope he doesn't retire. Do you think this will be it? But I'm like, I think he's performing so well that I think he'll stick it out for a while.
Maybe because the division needs it. Like, man, you make awesome points. And there's the fact that like we just opened the show with Sumo's different with a Yokozuna. I don't know that the JSA want him to walk away. And it's different than when Hakuho had his sunset moment recently because Hakuho got to leave with TerunoFinish, like, accepting that mantle. There is no one to accept Teru's mantle if he walks away. But maybe this is sentimentality for me, but I'm so worried of it going bad that I'm like, oh, Teru, if you get this, just go out on a high, man. I do not want to watch you get ground out. And I don't want to watch Teru have an end like Kisei no Sato did. I would rather him go out on a high like Hakuho, but I don't know.
I think, honestly, just seeing the difference where a lot of pressure was getting put on Takakeisho, and he was doing really well, but not like this.
Yeah.
So, like you said, I don't think there's anybody at his level currently, and I think as long as he's not super injured, I do think he'll continue.
Fair enough. Yeah, I'm excited to see if he can keep doing this. I want him. I want him for sure. But you did bring out something. I'm going to kind of combine 3 stories in one because, like you said, we're going to have 2 Ozeki, but we thought we were going to have 3, and there was a potential we'd have 0, but just a quick rundown. We'll go in depth on all of these, but Takakeisho got his Kachikoshi in tough fashion. He's clearly still injured, but he got his 8th win, so he sheds the Kadoban. Kiribayama locked up his 11th win, which means that there's no way they deny him getting Ozeki. But Daieisho also clinched his 5th loss, which mathematically eliminates him. So shockingly, just today, day 13, literally all 3 of the Ozekis or Ozeki contenders clinched their status, with one clinching the removal of Kadoban, one clinching the promotion, and one clinching that he is not getting the promotion. What do you think about this 3-pack and what happened here? Because I know we were both really excited for the potential of 3.
It's a bummer that there's not going to be 3, but I'm so excited for Kiribayama. Like, he's just out of this world, like, tournament. Like, he's 11-2 is crazy for him. Like, that's so good. I know I mentioned, I think, in the last show where I was like, oh, I hope Takakeisho is recovered enough to be able to do this. But I'm like, he never goes single-digit wins. I'm like, he might.
I know. And
this might be the first time in a very long time he doesn't hit at least 10 wins. And that's crazy to me.
Yeah. He especially because he's looked so good. Like, he looked really impressive beating Asanoyama, and I think he's one of the reasons he definitely helped out TerunoFinish in that sense, putting that extra little bit of distance there. But yeah, this is just what always happens with Daieisho. It's a bummer. I like the guy so much. But yeah, my take on Daieisho is I wanted him to do it, but if he cannot do it, if he cannot put together the record to get to Ozeki, then yeah, we don't want him as an Ozeki, because you and I, at least I know personally, really did not enjoy the Shodai Mitakeyumi ride of those unimpressive Ozekis.
No, and if we can avoid that again, I seriously doubt Kiribayama will be like that. I think he's performed well enough. Him and Takakeisho can hold it down for a while, and like you said, like, I just don't want to see Daieisho tank. Yep. Like Mitakeyumi, everyone last year was so hyped up on him, and he was great, and then it just fell apart, and you just don't want to see that happen again.
Exactly. We want to make sure that doesn't happen. We want some consistency there, and I don't know that Kiribayama is ever going to become Yokozuna, but maybe he levels up again. I don't know.
I think he'd probably stick around the Ozeki, or at Ozeki, which is, I mean, obviously it's great. That's the second highest in the whole sport. But...
yeah, it's enormous. Yeah.
Yeah.
But speaking of sort of these shifts there, Daieisho, I won't even say he disappointed us. Like you said, okay, if he finishes 8-7, I'm incredibly disappointed. If like sort of the steam comes out of his engine here, if he finishes with 10 wins, then we can't really be disappointed, because technically he'll still have a chance to go to Ozeki in the next tournament. He'll just need an even more impressive record. But some other guys, the Sanyaku, like we said, I have been very impressed with. I think it is solid now. We're in a much more stable place with the Sanyaku, but there are some guys that you still wanted to talk about.
Yeah, so with the Sanyaku, the one that really disappointed me was Kotonowaka. He's so good, but he's losing against like Nishikifuji or Nishikigi. That was a weird one. Like, and I understand like TerunoFinish, Daieisho, Kiribayama, like those are really hard fights, but it's like Shodai, he should have beaten Shodai, and there's an experience gap there, but he should have been able to do that. I expected him to be probably at least 8 or 9 wins by now. Yeah, not struggling at the last minute to get his Kachikoshi.
I'm with you. It's the Nishikigi fight and the Shodai fight that look like he should have had those. He should have already had Kachikoshi, because he's the guy who is young enough that, I mean, at least 2 years ago, I was very much, when I first started seeing him crack into Makuuchi, I was like, oh, this is the next Yokozuna. This is the guy who's really going to do it. And of the guys in the Sanyaku, mainly based on body types and past performance, he's the one who I think could be a Yokozuna, because he's so big. And that size is what I think got him his win over Kinbozan today. But also, it's that surprising thing, because Nishikigi, first of all, I like Nishikigi, but he is a guy who fights mountain style. You know, like he's just big. He tries to position himself so that no one can get leverage against his large frame. Then he can either lean on them or usher them out. That's how he wins. Kotonowaka is a guy who's big enough that shouldn't apply, and yet he lost to him, you know?
Yeah, because he should be better at it. than Nishikigi, but he just, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, you know, things are off, but it's like, it just wasn't what I was hoping for.
Yeah, same. And speaking of not what we were hoping for, sad choo-choo. We're going to talk about some of our young gun boys. So we talked about Kotonowaka as being one of these potential future contenders for Yokozuna. Other guys that you and I have talked about as potentially going up there, we have, of course, are the joint conductors of the Nishikifuji Hype Express, but also Kinbozan and Hokuseiho being those two young guys who just came up from Juryo. But Nishikifuji and Kinbozan, the two who got the jetpacks, which we were worried about, are getting obliterated this Basho, and the one guy who's getting the slow bake, like we talked about, Hokuseiho, he looks great. Now, admittedly, he's lost 3 in a row now that he's had to fight 3 Sekiwakes in a row, but before that he was 8-2. He was absolutely chewing up the small baby boys that he was fighting down here, including a win against Asanoyama, who is not a small baby boy.
No, and Hokuseiho, it totally makes sense that he's going to lose against Sanyaku. Like, this is his second time.
Yeah.
Which is why I had kind of have competing thoughts with Nishikifuji and Kinbozan. Kinbozan absolutely never should have been up this high. He's done. This is his second time. Like, he's made the comment where the people at this level are so much faster and so much stronger and have way more skill. He just doesn't have the experience to fight against these guys. Like, he has no idea what he's going up against. Like, that I don't think was fair to him because it set him up for the failure. But the Nishikifuji, who's been at the 5-4 range before, this was a wildly disappointing 3-10 so far.
Yeah.
I didn't expect him to do great, but I expected better than this.
Yeah. Right. You're saying best case scenario is 5-10. It could be worse than that.
This could be it. This could be all of his wins.
Yeah, right. He fights Takayasu tomorrow. And then, like, again, Nishikifuji, like, of those 10 losses, I believe 7 of them are against Sanyaku. Fair enough. Except the expectations that you and I have for him, he needs to at least go 500 against the Sanyaku. Otherwise, our expectations are wrong, you know, and that might be on us. But, like, that's the thing, man. Like, you have to beat either Shodai or Kotonowaka, or maybe both of them. You have to get at least one win against Wakamoto Haru, Daieisho, Kiribayama. You need to upset one of those guys if you're actually going to be up here in Tango. And he's not doing it. And then, to top that off, the frustrating part, week 2, losses to Tobizaru, Ura, and Abi. Come on!
And, like, those, like, not that those people, any of them are easy, but he shouldn't have lost all 3.
I know, yeah, that's the thing. Like, you probably should have beaten 2 out of 3 of those guys, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like, he has enough experience. That's what I expected.
Yeah. Yeah.
So just to see him just constantly tank on this one, it was just disappointing.
Yep. And so now
he'll go back down. I don't want to see him be a yo-yo
Yeah.
where he's like, oh, then he's going to get bounced down. He's going to get 10, 11 wins. It's going to get bounced back up. I'm like, I don't want to see that. I want him to, same as Hokuseiho, where it's like, just gradually bump him up again.
Yep.
Like they did the first time, and that it worked.
Yep. That slowly drip feeding in these top guys. And Kinbozan, like, I think he's going to bounce back from this. It just was a lot. He's got the body. You know, I think that's why, as far as the 3 guys we talked about, Hokuseiho, Kinbozan, and Nishikigi, if we're talking about the potential for Yokozuna, I don't put any of those 3 as high as I put Kotonowaka, but I do put Kinbozan far and away the highest of the 3 of them, simply because of physicals, you know? Like, at some point that matters. It helps TerunoFinish that he's so much bigger than so many of his opponents.
And watching Hokuseiho fight, like I've been paying more attention to him.
6'8".
It's wild. Like he just stands. He doesn't. He barely goes into touch. He just stands up and just grabs everybody. And I'm like, holy shit! Like this is crazy how good that is.
And it's super interesting because we've talked about, for instance, Asanoyama's speed, who I think we'll talk about him in just a second. But I think you think he's now going to get the jetpack, but we think he can withstand that. But we talked about how fast Asanoyama is and therefore looks on TV in the Tachi-ai. Hokuseiho looks so slow in the Tachi-ai, but I think that's deception. I don't think he actually is. I think that's literally just like a distortion of optics because he's so tall and it takes him so long to stand up. He might be standing up really quickly, but there's 6'8" of him, man.
Yeah, well, he's not trying to like blast forward and do traditional. He's just like, all right, stand up. He's like, come get me.
Yeah,
And they can't for the most part.
Yeah, that one arm, he just and his reach is so long. It's these guys are all trying to figure out the right strategy for him, and they'll figure it out eventually, and then he'll struggle and he'll have to figure out a way around it. But right now, he's just like, he just reaches over their back, grabs the back of the Mawashi, and then tries to one arm lift or underarm Shitanagi, like throw him out. And he can just do that because of his reach, and they can't defend against it. They're not tall enough to create enough space to stop him from just doing this over your shoulder. It's insane. He is a very unique wrestler that is going to hopefully figure out how to master this body he has at this level, because it's going to be a long time before we see someone else who can do what he can do because of those physical gifts. And if anyone can help him figure out how to do it, it's his freaking Oyakata, who is Hakuho. You know, like, come on. That's a good coach to have, man.
Yeah, especially with something new and kind of like exciting like this. Like, you want somebody who, like you said, at that level, nobody else is going to be able to teach you better.
Yep, it's going to be good. So that's kind of those three, but then the guy who we think is going to get the jetpack next time, how do you feel about Asanoyama?
I think he's shown he can hang at this level. I would like to see him, like, not, you know, he's not going to be like Mega Shiro 1, but like in that maybe 5-ish range, I think he can hang at that level. I know I was a little bit worried because it's, like I said, it's just like what Kinbozan had said, like when you're fighting at this level, they're so much faster and stronger and just better. That I was like, oh man, he's been out of Makuuchi for so long that I was like, can he still fight at this level? And he can. I mean, he's able to do it for the most part. Like, he needs to shake off some rust still, but he's there. Exactly.
And hopefully this Basho was enough to shake off that rust, because like we talked about, he had a lot of soft matches. You know, I talked right at the beginning of how the 6 guys ranked under him, I didn't think that they had any chance of beating him, and I believe he fought them the first 6... Oh, and Chiyoshima, the one guy ahead of him. So the first 7 days were the 7 guys around him, and he was 7-0. Like, it just, like, I was like, that's... All right, that's your tune-up, buddy. But then he did lose to Hokuseiho, which I'm like, what the heck? You were already beating that guy in Juryo. And then he fought Ryuden, which we think is a good win, except Ryuden has been garbage for a couple Basho here, so I don't know. Hiradoumi is an up-and-comer that, frankly, we probably don't talk about enough, but whatever. And he did knock off Meisei, who we probably should touch on, because he was definitely the story of the first half of the tournament, the surprise leader and knocking off the Yokozuna. But yeah, so Asanoyama seems like he's shaking the rust off, but he did lose to the one Sekiwake he fought, Daieisho, and he did lose to the Yokozuna. He fights Shodai tomorrow. I think he'll beat him, but yeah, so that's Asanoyama, but also, I don't know, Meisei thoughts?
Meisei was insane. Like, he's the only... Meisei is the only loss for TerunoFinish this whole time? Are you kidding me?
Meisei frustrates me so much. He and Daieisho, in my mind, their like stories are so linked. One, because there was it's irrelevant, but the Basho that Daieisho won, like Meisei was another contender for it, whatever. But when they're good, they're so good, and then it just doesn't happen, and I don't know why it's not happening, and I don't know what to do.
I'm like, if you can compete at that level and you can beat TerunoFinish, there's no reason you should be like, he just fell apart this whole last half. It's a worse version of what happened to Midori Fuji, because at least Midori Fuji broke double digits.
Yeah, he went 10-0 and then lost 5 in a row. Like, now Meisei hasn't lost 5 in a row, but we'll see what happens when he fights Daieisho tomorrow, who might have 5 in a row with that bonus loss. But yeah, for him to be 8
for sure.
Yeah, right. For him to be 8-5 right now, after he was 8-1 with a win over the Yokozuna. Oh, it's a bummer.
Yeah, and I mean, then Hokuseiho beat him. Abi beats him. Like, they're just blasting they're running a train through him right now. Like, he has no shot. I think the steam's gone.
Yeah, I think so too. Abi the Dream Crusher, right? Tell me about your boy.
I know everybody hates Abi. They've hated him since he beat Takayasu. But it's been so insane to me that for the initial part, the only losses in the Sekiwake were Abi. Maybe 3 of the 4 of them. Like, he breaks people's dreams. Yes. The bigger your hope, the harder you're going to get hit by Abi.
It's true. It's what he does. And again, we laugh. He's the bad boy of sumo, right? Including with his demotion and then coming back and his style of fighting and going for the throat punches and stuff. And it's funny because again, as is always the case with these things, like as a person, he's not actually a bad guy. And actually, he and TerunoFinish are apparently like pretty close buds and stuff like that. Like there's all these things like, but yeah, on the dohyo, bad boy of sumo, so much rage, and you I think just sit there and giggle.
Yeah. Well, and then you look Hoshoryu, who's like not in a position where he's going to get promoted. He just does well. He's the Sekewaki that beat Abi. I'm like, there it is. You have no dreams. He can't touch you.
Yes, there's nothing here for him to exploit. There is no crack for him to drip into and freeze like ice and crack this mountain.
Although my absolute favorite, Takayasu, comes back for no reason, realistically, at this point in the tournament, and his only win is just obliterating Abi. It had to feel so good for him after he lost November.
The Dream Crusher's dream is crushed.
Oh yeah, like that felt like a pure like revenge move, and it was watching him literally get like Abi got a good grip and like hit on his throat, and Takayasu just like flexed through it and just shot him out of the ring.
Yes, I hope Takayasu comes back ready to rock next boss show, because he's another one that sumo for me is just better when he's involved.
Oh yeah. At his skill level, like it's so fun to watch.
And just his strength, man. Like his upper body is insane. I think there are lots of guys who have stronger lower bodies than Takayasu, which is probably part of his struggles here. Not that he's like struggling, but you know what I mean? Like why he is not a Yokozuna right now. Because pushing and lower body are so important. That's not to say that he doesn't have a strong lower body. It's just that I would take him against anyone bench pressing or just on dohyo skills. Like that shoulder blast is bone crushing every time.
Yeah. It's hard to stand up to that. A lot of people just collapse into it once he hits them like that.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Which is interesting too, because his Beya is like notoriously sort of weak. It is very small, and he is the only top division wrestler in it and stuff like that. So he's not the only one who does this, but he's notorious for fighting like 4-on-1s in training against his younger dohyo mates.
That doesn't surprise me, and that would be terrifying to watch.
Just like
just taking out so many people. It sounds like something you'd see in like an anime or like a movie, like a John Wick situation.
Yes, exactly. The John Wick of sumo, just bam. It's good. So let's see. We've talked on what we think are the big storylines, and so at this point, there is only one story left, I think, and that's who is going to get the Yusho. And I mean, spoiler, Nick, who's going to get the Yusho?
I would put a significant amount of money on TerunoFinish. Like it's a 95% chance he's gonna get it.
I think so too. He's fighting Kiribayama. We've talked about it. It's one match. He needs to fight tomorrow and beat Kiribayama. Even if he doesn't beat Kiribayama, technically he could still win it. But what did I say? 7-0, 8-0 against Kiribayama in their last matches.
I think it was 9.
Yeah. So I know he's not healthy. I don't know. I just want it. Give it to me, Teru. Finish this off. Give a shot in the arm to the sport that it wants. And we'll all be there cheering you on.
Yeah, this is it. This was exactly what we hoped for with his return, and I'm so excited to watch him come through and just win this.
However much time we have left with TerunoFinish, I am going to do my best to not take him for granted, because I do not see someone of his like on the immediate horizon.
No, there's nobody at this level right now.
Yeah, I think so too. And so, yeah, to that, I'll just say thanks for listening, everybody. We hope you enjoy watching Teru for as long as we get to moving forward. But other than that, we'll talk to you again soon.